Hello and welcome to our video presentation of the information we shared to parents and community in Cold Lake on Monday, November the 9th, 2020. We hope that you find the information insightful and we appreciate you joining us for this video presentation. So the agenda for the information that we're sharing today includes some opening remarks and introductions, a review of the work of the Cold Lake Configuration Committee, next steps and some closing remarks. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Heather Stromquist, Director of Community Partnerships and Engagement.
And I'm Paula Elock. I'm the Secretary Treasurer for the School Division.
Thank you.
Okay, here we have got a list of the schools that we have within the city of Cold Lake. First one, Smith Aviation Academy. That's an alternative program located on the base. Then we have Cold Lake Elementary School located in the north. Cold Lake High School located halfway between the north and the south. Cold Lake Middle School in the south. Nelson Heights School in the north. And North Star Elementary School in the south. We also have Cold Lake Outreach School, but for the purposes of this presentation and for the community configurations of Cold Lake, we are holding it outside of the configuration process. We also have a closed school, Grand Center Middle School, which is currently leased to Happy House Daycare. Again, like Cold Lake Outreach, we have somewhat held it outside of the purpose of this configuration process, as we don't feel that the additional space there needed to be brought into the conversation.
Thank you, Paul. So on your screen now, you'll see a picture of Smith Aviation Academy. The current configuration of this school is a K-8 school. The capacity is 350 students. The enrollment this year for 2020-2021 is 260. We originally projected the enrollment this current school year at 288, and we are projecting the future enrollment in 2023-24 to be 284.
So just as we go through these slides on each of them, you will see that the actual enrollment is below the original projected number for this school year. This is due to a number of reasons. But what we want you to take away from this is that had we had our enrollment where we thought it was going to be, our projected enrollment for 23-24 would actually be higher than what you're seeing on the screen here. So next year, it's anybody's guess whether our enrollment will rebound once the coronavirus has hopefully moved through and moved on. Perhaps our enrollment will rebound, and then perhaps our projected enrollment for 23-24 may even be higher than what you see here.
Thank you, Paul. Here we have a photo of the front of Cold Lake Elementary School. The current configuration is K-4. The capacity for this school is 575 students. The actual 2020-2021 enrollment is 411. We projected 438 this year. In 2023-24, we're projecting 486 students. For Cold Lake High School, it's currently configured as a grade 9 to 12. Capacity for this school is 834. The current enrollment for Cold Lake High School is 637. We did anticipate it being 700 this year. Projected 2023-24 enrollment is 808. It's getting really close up to that capacity number. Cold Lake Middle School, current configuration grades 4 to 8. The capacity is 653. The actual 2020-2021 enrollment is 297. We originally projected 330 for the current school year. And for 2023-24, we're projecting 286. For Nelson Heights School, the current configuration is a grade 5 to 8. The capacity is 439. The enrollment for the current school year is 339. We originally projected it to be 358. And for 2023-2024, we're anticipating a projected enrollment of 356. For North Star Elementary School, the current configuration is a K-3. The capacity for this school is 468 students. The current year enrollment is 215 students. We originally projected 238 for the current school year. And for 2023-24, we're anticipating 284 students.
So why Reconfigure? Back in June of 2019, we held a meeting, a couple of meetings actually, one with staff and one with parents, to look at why we needed to reconfigure. What was the pressure that we were feeling that we even needed to consider this process? So on the screen, you see 4 schools that were nearing or going to be over capacity. Nelson Heights in 22-23, again, this was when we started the process, was going to be over capacity by 2022-23. Cold Lake High School, the following year would be over capacity. Cold Lake Elementary and Art Smith Aviation Academy were both going to be fully utilized by 2023-24. So this was the impetus in starting this process. Then in the meeting, we looked at such things as the projected enrollment. So we spoke with everyone present about the different types of models that we use for projecting our enrollment. For this process, we've looked at combining both a historical attrition model and what is best known to the principals when they are projecting enrollment on an annual basis. They know who's in and out of the schools and who's planning on returning and who's not. So we combined both of those to come up with the projected enrollment for this process. Then we also looked at the capacity and the utilization. The capacity is determined based on the instructional space of the square meters or square footage of a school. The utilization is an adjusted statement based on the students in the building combined with those with high needs. Then there's pedagogical perspectives that we looked at as well. And overlaying all of this is the government of Alberta, who has the authority on any capital projects. That would mean any additions, demolitions, or renovations, or even replacement schools. And the process for being awarded work, either in any of those already mentioned, would be very much the process we're going through here. The government of Alberta, or Alberta Education, wants to see that we've done the due diligence to say, can we resolve this problem on our own before we put in requests that are capital in nature and cost money for the taxpayer of Alberta. So the timeline for establishing the Cold Lake Configuration Committee. So back in the school year 2018-2019, that's when the NLPS Board Administration determined that we needed to create a committee and talked about how we were going to go about engaging with the public to address these enrollment pressures. So then in June 2019, as just discussed in the last slide or two, we had the meeting with staff, followed by the meeting with parents to share the information and discuss the creation of the committee to look at the configuration scenarios. Then in the fall, each school identified 2 parents to represent their school along with the principal, and those were the people put on the committee. Now, I do want to acknowledge that back in the June meeting, we had thought it might be best to have a staff member and the principal and a parent, and subsequent to those meetings, we thought it was probably best to load the committee with more parent participation than staff participation so that we could truly get a feel of what parents wanted. Then in November of 2019, that's when the terms of reference was established and adopted at the first meeting of the committee.
With this slide, we'd like to introduce the Cold Lake Configuration Committee members. At the top, we list our Northern Lights Public Schools Board of Trustees. Trustees are not officially part of the committee, but they were invited as observers as they will be making the final decision on the recommendations of the committee. The principal from each of the schools in the Cold Lake area were part of the committee, along with 2 parent representatives. At the bottom, Rick Kusan from Northern Lights Public School Division Office, our superintendent, attended, and we introduced ourselves earlier, Paula and myself, Heather. The first meeting of the Cold Lake Configuration Committee was on Monday, November the 4th, 2019. We had a data overview and information sharing session. We had questions, we answered their questions, and we discussed the next steps that the committee would take. Our next meeting was on Tuesday, February the 4th, 2020. We had a round robin discussion on the benefits, constraints, and options for each of the sites. In the photos, you'll see pictures of each of the schools. And around the room, everybody rotated and had a chance to discuss the benefits, constraints, and options for each of those schools. And then we consolidated all of that data together. We had presentations by the Director of Maintenance and the Director of Transportation, and we had discussions on possible scenarios. We met again on Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. We reviewed the information we shared and the data gathered at previous meetings. We then did a further SWOT analysis where we looked at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that allowed the committee to start developing 3 possible scenarios to share with Cold Lake parents, guardians, staff, and other stakeholders. We'll share some of that information that the committee gathered with you now. So for Art Smith Aviation Academy, some of the benefits identified was French immersion has increasing enrollments, the location, the sense of community that comes with a K-8 school, access to last-minute field trips on the base, and no rent. Some of the constraints identified by the committee: military and family support services lease ends in 2021. There may be an extension possible. The age of the building is owned by the Department of National Defense. Staff pack up in June each year and unpack at the end of August so that they can start up each new school year. The bus lane and parking needs more space. Some of the options identified by the committee: possibly move to Happy House, possibly combine Art Smith Aviation Academy and North Star Elementary School in a K-6. Do we want to continue French immersion? These are all things that the committee discussed and we're taking a look at. Other comments: Northern Lights Public Schools offers the educational program. It does not hold the lease. The school is an alternative program. The committee wondered if the base was required to have a school. We did answer that in our discussions that they aren't required to have a school, but the wing commander is very supportive of the school on the base, and it creates a nice sense of community for our 4-wing. Cold Lake Elementary School, some of the benefits: new building, good parking, locations where the majority of new housing builds are going in Cold Lake. It could possibly be a K-6 school. Some of the constraints identified by the committee for Cold Lake Elementary School: no room to add additional portables. The building core is for 300 students and the portables are 300 students. The gym is too small to hold current student numbers. Lockers are very small and will not fit older students. Some of the options identified: we could consider a K-6 with boundary changes. And other comments shared: kindergarten students are considered 0.5. They're not considered 1.0 or full-time equivalency, but they are in our buildings full-time for a full day. For Cold Lake High School, some of the benefits identified were that it's only 11 years old. We could build a 3rd floor. It has city transit right outside, a portable out front. Consider a 10 to 12 configuration. Reutilization of current square footage, relocation of specialized programs. Maybe consider before and after school classes to use space more efficiently, so classes could start earlier in the morning and also run later in the evening so that more students could attend school with a schedule that maybe suits their needs more appropriately. Some of the constraints at Cold Lake High School: can't add additional portables, hemmed in by the Energy Center expansion. Cost to build the 3rd level would be a consideration. Conflicts with the Energy Center with the bar in the arena. No security, but there is a peace officer located at the Energy Center. Imminent enrollment concerns. The school has a maximum capacity and we're going to reach it very soon. Options for Cold Lake High School: potentially utilize some of Portage College facilities. Is money available? Other comments for Cold Lake High School: mixed feelings on space. Some felt there is a lot of space and others did not. Either grade 10 to 12 or move some programs off site. It can't stay as it is. Future Lakeland Catholic School near the Cold Lake High School in Imperial Park. For Cold Lake Middle School, benefits identified by the committee, it could be used for a high school or a junior senior high. The school has a shop and a home economics lab. There's space for more students, city transit, location, no empty classrooms. Constraints identified by the committee, the bus lane, the aging washrooms. Options available, adjust the grades to utilize the space, potentially a second high school south. More than enough room to house grades 7, 8, and 9 with potential for grade 6s in the south. Other comments by the committee, lots of space, best use is for older students in grades 7 to 9. Nelson Heights School, benefits identified by the committee, lots of green space and parking, slower speed limit, a bus loop is away from the main area, it's easy for walkers, racquetball and squash courts, the back is fenced, wide range of grades, modernish facility, good sized gym. Some of the constraints identified already, it has a portable, not equipped to house lower grades in K to 2, no room to retain grade 9, building and playground is aging, bus pickup is on the street. The comments shared here are unfiltered comments that were shared by the committee when we did the round table discussions. So these are all comments that were shared by the committee, and we did not take out any of the comments. So you're getting raw data here. Some of the options available for Nelson Heights School, room for additional portable. And other comments, lots of space, close to the hospital, lots of land space. For North Star Elementary School, the benefits identified by the committee, 50% capacity right now. There's lots of room. Functioning lockers for older students, fenced-in outdoor classroom, lots of playground area and room to build, and room for a larger parking lot. The constraints identified by the committee, 2 schools already located on site. One is leased to Happy House, not enough parking. Gym question mark. There's 2 gyms, one is an activity room. Old building, it's had modernizations many times over the years. Bus pickup is on the street, age appropriate playground for K to 6, basketball courts. Office is not in a well-placed location, so there's some security concerns there. Options for North Star Elementary School, lots of space, sell Happy House, could make a K to 6. Could you utilize Grand Center Middle School gym, higher enrollment, would or could push for a replacement school, make the gym larger to accommodate older grades. So lots of brainstorming by our committee members. Other comments, modernization of classrooms and washrooms, office location. It is not close to the front door. 4 classrooms that could be demolished. There's no money to maintain them. Maintenance is responsible for them. Is it possible that they could be taken back from the play school? So these are just putting ideas out there.
Okay, and what you see here are the 3 scenarios that are proposed by the committee. So after discussing all of those options and constraints and strengths and weaknesses of the sites, we took a look at what could possibly be configured for possible scenarios. And so we've presented here 3 on the screen, 1 in each color block. There was actually a 4th configuration. It was a slight version of the multi-configuration option, the one in green. And the committee decided to eliminate one of the multi-configuration options and just present this one. So we're left with these 3 scenarios. The first scenario in yellow, the streamlined configuration option, considers having 3 elementary schools, K to 6 schools, North Star Elementary, Cold Lake Elementary, and Nelson Heights they would all become K to 6. Then Cold Lake Middle School would be a junior high with configurations of grades 7 to 9, and Cold Lake High School would be purely a high school 10 through 12. Art Smith Aviation Academy, here and in the 3 scenarios presented, shows itself or presents itself as a K to 6 or K to 8. The rationale for that was at the time that the committee was looking at this back in September, let's say September and November of 2019, the enrollment pressures on Art Smith would lead you to believe that there might not be enough room for a K to 8. So maybe a K to 8 or K to 6 configuration might be best if the enrollment was that high in the school. That being said, for the purposes of the presentation and all our calculations, it has been assumed that Art Smith Aviation Academy remains a K-8 throughout the whole process. But we did leave it out there as we had identified throughout the configuration process with the committee. The next option, the high school option, has 3 K-6 schools, again, like we saw in the first configuration option. And in this scenario, both the middle school and the high school become 7 to 12 configurations. And again, Art Smith remains as it did before. In the last scenario, the multi-configuration option, we see that North Star Elementary is a K-6, like it was in the other two. Cold Lake Elementary in this scenario is a K-3. Nelson Heights is a 4-6. Cold Lake Middle School, once again, is purely a junior high with configuration of grades 7 to 9. And Cold Lake High School is purely a high school with configuration for grade 10 through 12. And Art Smith, as mentioned before, is a K-6 or K-8, depending on the enrollment pressures.
Looking at the 3 scenarios, the committee reviewed busing cost implications, facility impacts, and potential upgrades that were needed, the number of transition students would have, and the growth potential for the upcoming years as student population continues to increase. The committee then had a chance to provide feedback on the 3 different options that were presented. That the committee came up with, and they did a SWOT analysis on all of this, so we're going to share that information with you. So for the streamlined configuration, strengths that they identified was that the middle school would make a fantastic junior high, the possibility of French immersion, the least amount of transition, not enough students at either 7 to 12 to have sports teams. Programming at the high school will be far more effective and economical to deliver when all 10 to 12s are together. And 7 to 9 junior high school could be a real opportunity for knowledge and employability, regular curriculum, IB programs, junior sports, and French immersion. Weaknesses identified for the streamlined configuration: 3 K-6 schools is too many. Where do we draw the border for the north? It may cause busing issues, longer routes, potentially a loss in budget. Opportunities for streamlined configuration: building strong school community for K-6, eliminating school shopping, push North Star to the top of the capital plan, and integrated K-6 across the city. Some of the threats identified by the committee: K-6 is competing for each other in Cold Lake North, and transitions are overrated.
Okay, and in this slide, what we get a look at is we get the schools on the very left-hand side. In the next column, we see the configuration, as we've just discussed earlier, the capacity of each site, and now the capacity that was noted earlier in the presentation was the capacity of the schools as they are now, given the current configurations. Once we change the configurations, there are times where the capacity changes, and that's a formula based on, it's based on a formula that the government provides to us. So when we use the configuration, we come up in some cases with a new capacity. The enrollment for 23-24 as projected, and as we shared with you earlier when we were looking at the schools. So then the utilization, when we look at that, we see that North Star Elementary in this scenario is at just under 99% utilized, so it would be fully utilized. Cold Lake Elementary would be at 58%, and Nelson Heights would be at about 75%. Now, what you need to understand here is if you look at the enrollment for those 2 schools, for Cold Lake Elementary and Nelson Heights, you will see they're both 335 students. In order to determine the enrollment, what we did is take the enrollment for K-6 in the north and split it equally between the 2 schools. So that's how and that was just for a very simplistic method because we don't know where everybody would be going at this point in time. So for ease of presentation, that's what we've done in this scenario, and you'll see in others as well as we work through. Cold Lake Middle School, for a 7 to 9 configuration, we're seeing about a 66% utilization, and Cold Lake High School for purely the 10 through 12 high school configuration is at about 74%. Art Smith Aviation currently sits in these scenarios with a projected enrollment of 284 at about 81%. So again, if that enrollment was higher than we had expected, then perhaps we would be looking to consider Art Smith more of a K-6, but in these scenarios, it's assumed that it's a K-8 with 81% utilization.
So committee feedback on the high school option for strengths, minimal transition. Weaknesses, concerns about 7 to 12 high school, mixing the ages, have to divide the kids at both Cold Lake Elementary School and Nelson High School, go K-6, especially due to a new school, and more parents will pick the new school. Students currently enrolled at Cold Lake High School would need to switch schools. Grade 9 this year in the middle school for 7 to 12. Opportunities for the high school option, building a strong school K-6 community, eliminating school shopping, and push North Star to the top of the capital plan. Threats for the high school option, competition with Assumption Junior Senior High School until replacement, can't afford 2 high school programs.
Okay, and here we have the high school option in the same chart that we saw for the streamlined configuration model. Again, in this one, North Star Elementary, Cold Lake Elementary, and Nelson Heights all assume the configuration will be a K-6. So we see an unchanged utilization on those 3. Then for both Cold Lake Middle and Cold Lake High, where the configuration is a 7 through 12, we see the utilization at about 77% for Cold Lake Middle and 65% for Cold Lake High. Likewise, when we, in the last scenario, combined the total population for Cold Lake Elementary and Nelson Heights in the K-6 grouping and divided equally, that's what we have done here for Cold Lake Middle and Cold Lake High to come up with their student populations. We would need to look at that further, but for simplicity at this point in time, that's how we've arrived at their utilization.
Thanks, Paula. So committee feedback on the multi-configuration option, the strengths identified by the committee, middle school was made for big kids and it would make a fantastic junior high, could possibly accommodate French immersion, is the best fit for all facilities, least disruption to the current configurations, and it simplifies transportation. Weaknesses identified, 4 transitions may deter some parents, no option to allow K-3 and 4 to 6 schools in the south. Students in Cold Lake North now have 4 transitions. It's a lot of transitions, and all 7 to 9 in one school could be a benefit and could be a weakness. The committee identified the following opportunities: can help absorb Art Smith Aviation Academy if necessary, gym at Happy House for North Star Elementary School, maybe use the middle school gym at Cold Lake Middle, continue French immersion for 7 to 9 and 10 to 12, so build on the program, build the athletic program, fill North Star Elementary School to get capacity for replacement. Combining at grade 7 will create a more unified group going to high school. Better age use of appropriate space configurations, and the kids are ready to move up.
Once again, these are the unedited comments of the committee.
Threats identified by the committee on the multi-configuration option would be overfilling North Star Elementary School.
Okay, and then for the multi-configuration model, we get a look at this chart again. Here we see North Star Elementary, which remained unchanged from the 2 previous models at about 98%, or 99%. When we talk about moving, or you've heard the comments in the presentation about moving North Star Elementary to the top of the capital plan, what that really means is that our board makes the decision on the priorities within the capital plan, but having enrollment pressure certainly pushes the need for a replacement school or modernization on both the Northern Lights agenda and at the provincial level when our request goes into the government. Here, Cold Lake Elementary as a K-3 with 405 students becomes utilized at just under 71%, or just above 70%, sorry. Nelson Heights with a configuration of grades 4 through 6, it ends up being just under 59%. Cold Lake Middle School, as we've seen in the first configuration model, as a 7 to 9 configuration is 66%, and Cold Lake High for the 10 through 12 configuration ends up being at about 74%. Again, Art Smith Aviation remains unchanged at the 81%.
The committee met again on Thursday, October the 15th by Zoom. We reviewed the work of the committee to date. We shared the new enrollment information for the current school year. But despite the new enrollment information, the committee decided that they were comfortable with the 3 proposed configuration scenarios. They're really supportive of the information sharing sessions, and they really want feedback from the community.
This slide here, just for ease of presentation, just tried to capture the 3 models side by side, so you can take a look at the enrollments, the projected enrollment, and the utilization of each of the 3 models without flipping back and forth through the presentation.
We'll just leave this up for a minute so that you can take a look at it.
The next slide also shows the configuration model, just so that you don't have to go back and forth and find this slide earlier in the presentation. So we've just inserted it here again, just to get a clean and easy look at those configurations under the various options.
So we want to thank you for joining us for this video presentation. If you have any additional or any thoughts that you'd like to share with us, you can email me, heather.stromquist@nlsd.ab.ca. Please write Cold Lake configuration in the email subject so that I can find it easily. But we would like to hear from you if you have any thoughts you'd like to share. And we thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you very much. We appreciate any input that you have in this process. Naturally, at this point, once we collect information, we're going to go back to the committee and see what we have, or if we have enough information to proceed, or how we want to, what the next steps will be from a committee perspective. We are hoping to wrap up this process of the whole configuration by the end of this school year, so the 2021 school year.
Thank you so much.